afternoon, everybody. My name is Lisa Simmons, and I'm the program manager for the community team, which is festivals, local cultural councils, and cultural districts. So I want to introduce our team also, who is here with us on the call. Many of you know them already, but let's give another go around. Luis Cotto, who is the Cultural District's program manager, Mina Kim, Timothy FM, Ricky Guillaume, and Veronica Martel are all program officers with the communities team. And if you don't already know, we actually work on a regional basis. And this map represents the regions that each team is associated with. So if you don't know who your program officer is, and that is whether you're an LCC or a cultural district or a festival or working in any one of these regions, your contact person is going to be one of these program officers. So so this map exists on the Mass Cultural Council website, but you will also be receiving this PowerPoint. So don't worry about, sort of like trying to study it right now. You can find it on our website. So we have a pretty jam-packed schedule today, and I hope that all of you are going to be able to be here throughout the whole time, because we have some incredible guests that are doing some innovative programming within the confines of COVID-19 and have been really resilient and innovative in moving towards stages of recovery. So today, here's the agenda for you. We're going to hear from Tracie Konopinski, who's at MASSCreative, Courtney Bridges, who's with the Artists Association of Nantucket, Tina Games and Chris Edwards, who are with Eventide Theater Company, Joe Martin with Barrington Stage, and then Matthew Boyes Watson, who's the co-creator of Bill Market. So we have some really incredible conversations that we're going to have for them. And today we actually are going to start with Tracie from MASSCreative. So if you have any questions, please know that you can put those questions in the chat. We'll be happy to respond to those either after someone's presentation or at the end. So please feel free to do that. So Tracie, do you want to share your screen? I will stop sharing mine so you can share yours.
Yes. All right. Hi, everyone. So I know that you often hear from Emily on these updates, and we are tag teaming this since we are a good team at MASSCreative. So you know us as the one of the statewide advocacy organizations for arts and culture and creativity in the Commonwealth. So I'm going to give you a little bit of a federal update on what's happening policy-wise, a state update on what's happening policy-wise, and then we know that because you're creatives and you're on this call that you actually want to take action and do something with your time and your energy if you're able to, and so we want to guide you in that direction and give you just a couple of quick tips to make it really easy for you. All right, so federal update. So Emily last week, I believe, talked about the HEROES Act, which is the new version of the federal stimulus package. There's a bunch of things that are really amazing in there. It got passed by the House, and it is unlikely to pass in its form through the Senate and get signed by the president. They have voiced that it's kind of dead on arrival. But we believe in advocacy, and so we think that there's some really great things in here that our federal delegation, our members of Congress need to hear about so that they continue to be strong arts and cultural advocates. So there's a couple of good things. There's more money coming to state and local governments, so that will actually allow the governor, the legislature, our mayors, our city councilors, our town council to decide what to do with that money. And so our colleagues across the country have been advocating that not only does that go to frontline workers and to the first defense, but that it also goes to other essential sectors like arts and culture. There's also money for education to make sure that elementary and secondary schools can get back online in the fall. Some additional extension of the unemployment benefits. There's also, so that's kind of like all of the funding piece. And then in terms of the grant piece, there is additional money for the Small Business Association loans. So the SIDL loans and the PPP, the Payroll Protection Program, more money for the NEA and the NEH, as well as IMLS, which is great because our leaders in the state, Mass Cultural Council and the Mass Humanities have really pivoted to figure out how to take that money from the federal government and give it to exactly what is needed by artists and organizations right now. So kudos for being some of the first in the country to turn it around. And then there's also another $5 billion going to the community developed block grants, which is another way that that federal money can actually get down to municipalities. And there's a little bit more flexibility in a program like this and being used for arts and culture, like Lynn has done it in the past. All right, so that's the really quick federal update. The state update, as I'm sure you know, last Monday, the 18th, Governor Baker and the Reopening Advisory Board announced their 4-phase plan for reopening. The thing that it lays out is exactly when it will be safe for certain industries to come back into real life and not just Zoom world. But what that means is that it doesn't mean that we can just snap our fingers, flip a switch that we'll be able to reopen. There's all of this is guided by public health data, and there's protocols that need to be followed in terms of a checklist of safety protocols and a COVID plan for safe venues in order for this to happen. But it does lay out these 4 phases. What it does tell us is that most arts and cultural organizations and venues will not be able to safely open until phase 3 and 4, which according to the plan, each phase will last a minimum of 3 weeks. Obviously it could last longer, and the only thing that will allow us to move forward into phases is if public health trends are being met. And there's always an opportunity, well, opportunity is the wrong word. There's always the case that if we get this wrong and we make a mistake and there continues to be more cases, more hospitalizations, and a stress on ICU beds, that we will have to go back a phase. So I encourage you, Luis, thank you for putting things in the chat box. There is the state put together a really impressive plan. There's great resources in there that can help you answer questions like, when can I reopen my business? What does my plan need to look like? So we encourage you to look at that. All right, so that's the federal and the state update. So in terms of what you can do, so this is a really important opportunity since the HEROES Act is moving through Congress. It's a really important opportunity for us to reach out to our members of Congress, since any emergency funding, any loan program, any emergency assistance, all of that comes from Congress and gets managed by the Treasury or by the Small Business Association. So that is our best opportunity to have emergency funds come down to our state and our municipalities and to your organizations and your work as creatives. So there's 2 actions that we're encouraging people to take. One is to email your member of Congress. There's a really easy action alert that Americans for the Arts has put together that allows you to do that. And the second piece that we're advocating for is to call your member of Congress. So I think I just went over this. Congress is really important. Federal, state, and local advocacy, it's all really important. It comes down from the federal government, and so Congress is the decision-making body for all of this. You may be asking yourselves, do I want to send an email? Do I want to make a phone call? Which is which? Emails, really easy. It takes 2 minutes. And what this does is it creates a higher volume and visibility for the campaign. And so any member of Congress or a staffer, if they get 10 emails on a subject, they go, oh, this is really important to my constituents. So you may be saying, oh, do emails really work? Yes, they absolutely do. They raise visibility. They get it on a staffer and members of Congress radar. Calls, also really important, kind of a medium-sized action, takes a little bit longer, a little bit more effort, but it also helps you build a relationship with your legislator. So Emily, I believe, shared in a previous series tips for telling your personal story. So if you haven't done this before, we've got this great worksheet that takes you through some prompts to be able to tell your personal story in a strong way. All right, I'm running out of time, but please keep in touch. Emily, our executive director, this is all of our contact and our social. And if you're looking for more of like the 15-minute version of this and not the 7-minute version, you can every Friday come to our virtual policy and action updates at 9:45 to 10 a.m. It's like being shot out of a cannon. It's a great way to start your Friday. So Louise is putting those registration links in there as well. All right, thanks team.
Tracie, that was great. Woohoo! Like you came in under the wire.
Right.
So I don't know if we have any questions, but I just want to, because we're moving into talking with folks now about their stories and what they're doing, and I just want to, if you can just say just a little bit about how important those stories are in advocacy. It's not just calling up and saying we really need arts funding, we really need this, but for all of us, I think all of us are really trying to make sure that those stories get heard by the right people so they understand the importance of arts and culture in our communities.
Yeah. Can you still see me? There's something weird happening to my computer.
Yes, I can still see.
Okay, great. I think that storytelling is really important because it's what shows that you are a human and not a robot. And I think that when you look at everything that a member of Congress has on their daily to-do list, arts and culture may not appear on there as one of their priorities, either personally or just because there's a lot of other competing influences. So if you're able to share a very personal story about who you are, why you do your work, either with an organization or as your creative art form, this helps it helps personalize the story. And if you're able to say, here's what I was doing before the COVID outbreak, here's what I'm doing now, here's what I need in order to get to the next phase and still exist when we get to phase 3 or 4 or like a year from now. And so I think it's incredibly important, and showing vulnerability and showing like you are a human, it just helps to put a name and a face and an experience to what you're going through.
Thank you. Yeah. And people can find all of that information on your website. So that's great.
Correct. There is a drop down for COVID, lots in there.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Tracie. So, we're talking about legislature and we're talking about doing advocacy, but it's really important for us to be focusing on engaging our communities, right? And our patrons and our audience during this time of social distancing. So we've invited these wonderful guests to talk about what they're doing and how they're creating opportunities to do just that. So I want to turn it over to Courtney, who's with the Association of Nantucket, Art Association of Nantucket, who did a really cool thing about the drive-in art event. So Courtney, you can share your screen and tell us all about how that came about and maybe what it was originally, how you made it a successful event.
Great. I'll get my screen up here for you. And can everybody see that okay?
Uh-huh.
Perfect. All right. So Nantucket is where we're based. It's 30 miles out to sea. And so we're always about innovation. We always need to be thinking and making changes. And we're also really reliant on our own little island. We don't have a town next door to really reach out to. And we're so lucky to have these organizations to kind of shepherd us along. But in the time of COVID, we really made the choice to innovate. And that happened because there were really 2 roads to travel here when everything set in motion with the pandemic. And I just remember so distinctly, it was my staff meeting, and it was kind of, COVID was just starting, and it was a nice day. And so I brought everybody outside. I have a staff of 12, and we all took different corners of the sculpture garden, and we were talking, and then we all decided and agreed that we would work from home for the rest of the week. And none of us really realized in that moment that we were going to be working at home for more than a few days. Yeah. And those few days passed for us, and it was time for me to call in the big dogs. I called my executive board and I said, this is big, and we need to decide what we're going to do. We have classes, we have kids counting on us, we have artists who are, not going to be getting their income from us because we aren't going to be having a show next week. And I heard from some of my partners, some of my peers, and they've closed. They're just going to try to wait it out. And I'm so grateful that through that conversation, we really thought about the two roads you could travel here. One is to wait, and one was to innovate. And we decided that we would innovate. We said, let's go for it. Let's do whatever we can to keep our mission strong and to keep our programming strong. And so we decided to take that road of innovation. And so the next day I posed to my staff, you know, what can we do during this time? Even though we're at home, let's press pause on some things and press play on some others. What's your dream if you've got nothing to lose? And we all shared our wildest dreams, and there were some crazy ones. That's why I love my staff. I'm really a type A kind of gal. I love the arts. They're very important to me and to my family, and I grew up in the arts, but in that sense, I'm the black sheep. I'm a businesswoman. And so I love working with my team of creatives. And in particular, what we'll talk about today was an idea that soup to nuts belongs solely to our artistic director, Bobby Frazier. And so we thought about our mission, and we shared our wildest dreams, and there were some ideas that went on with great success and some ideas that didn't even get off the ground. We had this plan. I don't know if any of you guys have seen the masterclass opportunities where people can take really interesting and really high level, beautifully designed online classes. So we got a Vimeo and we were gonna get going on that, and it didn't even get off the ground. We tried on Makerspace, an online makerspace. We have a very successful drop-in makerspace where community members come to the Visual Arts Center and we make things all together. Young people and old people, very, very fun. That on a digital platform did not take off, but some ideas really did work, and we really hustled to make them come true. And what was cool about it was the ideas that worked, they were the ones that spoke the most truth to our mission, which is to foster the visual arts on Nantucket and really creating a vibrant arts community. The ideas that took flight for us were the ones that did that at its core. And in a lot of ways, that was the real silver lining of this whole situation. And the one that I was asked to share about today was one of our ideas that really stuck, and that's our drive-through art fair. As I mentioned, Bobby Frazier, during our big idea meeting, he said, you know, let's try this drive-through art fair. I'll set up the art walls in the parking lot. And we're fortunate that we just happen to have a parking lot with an entrance and an exit. And we reached out to our artists and we said, hey, we know, you know, we can't have any gallery shows, but let's see if we can have a drive-through art fair and maybe it will generate some sales. And I was just thrilled that we sold 13 works of art, which for an off-season show it's not bad for us. And 70 cars, there I am there waving people through with my mask on. 70 cars came through that day, just in the few hours that we had the drive-through art fair going. And the best part was the very next day I got to sign commission checks for artists, and it was income that they didn't plan on receiving and that they really, you know, wouldn't have a lot of other side income coming in from their art sales. And so those commission checks were really exciting to send out. And it created this buzz and this leadership concept that the Artists Association is here. We're here for the community. We are here for our artists, and nothing can really stop us. So I was so proud as all those cars drove through, and as Bobby single-handedly hung the first ever outdoor art fair. It was just really exciting for us and made us know and feel that what we were doing is important, and that, you know, the experience was just really rooted in art and hope and well-being. We were psyched to pull it off. just on Saturday, we were really excited that Bobby was interviewed by the New York Times. So the drive-through art fair made its way all the way to what we call some big boy press. So that's fun too. And we just hope that those people from the New York Times will go and buy more art from our artists. That's what we really want to see. That's mostly what I had to share about the drive-through art fair and empowering your staff and your team to dream big during this time. And if there's time for questions, I'm happy to take those, or chat with anyone offline. You're welcome to reach out to me by email.
Thank you, Courtney. I mean, it's such a simple idea, right? I mean, that's what makes it so wonderful, and that the community, not only the community, but the artists were like, yeah, sure, I'm down for that, you know, whatever. And I think you're right. It builds goodwill. It helps keep you engaged with your community. It helps artists understand that they are really valued. And I think that, you know, it's one of the things that we're really trying to do during this time is to make sure, which all of you have done, which we'll hear about, is really around engagement in your community and making sure that culture is alive and well and people understand that. So, and plus you had an incredibly wonderful graphic for the whoever created that, the orange, I loved that. That was like, you know, it's all those things that everyone coming together to do that.
That was one of our artist members, so we were really excited to, again, give the artists a little bit of work during this time.
No, it's great. So it says, did you have to purchase the outdoor walls, or is it something that you already had, these walls?
Yeah, we have the art walls. They are really easy to construct. Our gallery manager built them for us initially, but we had the art walls, so it was a low expense event.
Excellent. All right, so now we're going to move over to Tina and Chris, who have your theater company, Eventide. Now, you guys are really sort of dependent upon live audiences. I mean, your members sitting in the theater and responding to you, and but so a lot of theater companies have decided to shut down, and we're going to hear a totally different perspective from Joe as we move on to him. But it's really interesting that you all made the decision to go virtual. You did this incredible play called Touched by War that you're going to talk about, but you also have this drop-in Shakespeare thing going on, and again, like Courtney and everybody else here, it's about community engagement and audience engagement and making sure that people still know that you're there and you can offer this quality cultural event and space for your community. So I don't know who wants to go first, if you want to share your screen, and then each one of you if Tina or Chris is going to go first, but let's hear a little bit more about it.
Actually, I think drop in Shakespeare. Chris, why don't you touch on that, and then I will move to Touched by War.
Okay.
Sure. I'll try not to eat up too much of our time. I am also a performer, so I tend to talk a lot. The drop-in Shakespeare concept just comes from an idea of us wanting to really connect with the locals and also give people who are looking to perform and looking to express themselves an outlet. And we like to promote it as, no rehearsals, no rules. Anybody can drop in. We put a sign up for the play about an hour ahead of time. I put a link on our Facebook page that takes you to a page that lists all of the characters from the play on Sign Up Genius. And it's sort of a free-for-all. The faster you log in, the faster you get the role of your choice. I get notifications that pretty much fill my inbox by 5:03 for everybody trying to get the best roles. And then we kind of dole out the rest of them among the people who are reading. And then at 6 o'clock, we go live. We do an introduction and we simulcast on Facebook. So we use a Zoom room basically as our theater stage, and then we perform for the viewers on Facebook, and we read the plays from beginning to end. And there's a couple of things that we try to accomplish with that. We're trying to reach people beyond our normal locale. We've had readers from Italy and from Florida who've joined us, which has been a lot of fun. And it's also an opportunity to explore material you don't normally get to see. We're not performing Hamlet. We're not reading Romeo and Juliet. We're reading Coriolanus. We're reading some of the more obscure plays, Henry V, which is a popular one, but not performed very often. And we're trying to do a few things to even sweeten the pot for fans of Shakespeare who might not actually have the opportunity to read other more obscure plays. So we have takeovers. We had a Marlowe takeover in this series where we did Dr. Faustus.
Dr. Faustus, I saw that.
It was fun. And we're going to be doing a Ben Jonson takeover probably for the next set, where we're going to be doing The Alchemist. And then we threw another piece in there, which was trying to open it up to fans of poetry in the region, which was a sonnet slam, where you could call in or you could dial in, and anybody could just read a poem, be it one of their favorite sonnet or a poem they've written themselves that didn't necessarily have to be a sonnet. But it was a great opportunity for us to connect with folks locally, regionally, nationally, and actually internationally as well.
And is that where, so does that where Touch by War, did Touch by War come first before the sonnets, or did Touch by War is just part of the whole bringing this to Zoom and to a wider audience?
Well, the drop-in Shakespeare was sort of our desperate attempt to try and connect with our audience when all of this first started, and it paid off for us in spades. And the fact that so many people were engaged with us through drop-in Shakespeare, that's what led us to think that it would be feasible for us to actually mount a production such as Touched by War, and use what we had learned from the drop-in Shakespeare to inform how we would direct that. I'll throw it back over to Tina now, because that's a great segue into her presentation.
Yeah, so I'll jump into Touch by War, because what Chris, and let me just get this going here. Hold on one second.
Careful, Tina, we're going to lose what's left of our 7.
Ah, is that coming up?
That's right, you get 4 minutes.
All right.
All right, hold on one second. Let's see something. Give me one more second here. It looked like it was coming up.
It looked like it was there.
It was there. It was just on the last slide, so you just have to forward.
All right, so let me just go up here. I thought I had it set up in presentation mode. There it goes. Okay, so can everybody see it? So
Yes.
Touched by War. This is every year, Eventide Theater Company does a playwriting competition. So this is something that we've done for 13 years. And it's always the winner of the playwriting competition gets a staged reading. So normally this would have happened in our lovely intimate theater. It would have happened on our stage. It would have been in front of a live audience. And we all felt very strongly, we just didn't want to throw this to the wind and just give the check to our winner and let it be. We felt strongly we wanted to bring it to the audience. So we created a virtual version, Touched by War. James Marlowe was our winner this year of the playwriting competition. And, you know, this is sponsored by the Kaplan Foundation, and Mass Cultural Council has also been very generous over the years in giving various grants for this to happen as well. So, Chris, we're going to kind of just go back and forth here. This all began when Chris and I had a conversation. We're like, okay, how are we going to do this virtually? And we both had a lot of ideas about this. And it was very important that because it was virtual, that we bring actors who could feel some bit of comfort with this, because this was not our normal way of doing this. So Chris, I'll let you take it from here with the casting. I mean, what everybody is seeing in front of them are the 6 members of the cast. Up at the top left is our playwright. You'll see Chris over on the right because he was the director, and then the rest are our cast members. So Chris, go ahead and talk about the casting and how.
Sure. Very briefly, we were looking for actors who were going to personify the characters when we read the play, people who would be able to very easily connect with the characters that they were presenting. And I was fortunate in the sense that there isn't a lot of live theater going on, so I could kind of have my pick of performers, which was really nice. And I absolutely got every actor was my first choice. Everyone we reached out to was enthusiastic about signing on board, and we were able to get them all together, and we would have rehearsals in this sort of format, in this Zoom room, where we would get our cast ready to go for the reading.
Yep. And then we opened up, we had 2 shows. So we had a Saturday night show at 6:30 and then a Sunday at 2:30. That way people could have their pick of what to attend. What you're looking at right now is the president of our board, David Kaplan, who actually came on and opened the show, welcomed our audience, and presented the playwright with the $1,000 check. So we kind of did all this virtually. So he opened it up, and then we moved into performance. So Chris, you want to talk a little bit about the dynamics of bringing people in and out and cueing and sound effects?
Well, it's a daunting task when you first think about it, but once you dig into it, it's not all that different from directing a main stage show. I mean, your entrances are your entrances, your exits are your exits. Only instead of walking on stage, you're turning your camera on. And you got to remember to turn your mic on as well. And we would kind of prep those sound cues for people. You know, we'd have everybody reading from the script in front of them a few lines ahead of time. You turn your mic on, and then when you enter, you turn on your camera. And then we had props, and we had worked out nuances. How did we do handoffs? So we figured out, well, if everybody has a prop, you have it in one area and you're handing it to somebody reach towards the camera, and then somebody is going to pick up a similar object and take it away from the camera. And it actually gave the impression that you were passing items between the actors. If you did have to spend a little bit of disbelief with the backdrops, because everybody's supposed to be in the same room, in a lot of cases you have a lot of different background settings, but everybody really rose to the challenge, and it was really an adventure. We learned a lot about the nuances of transmitting and performing by Zoom. No matter how hard you try or how good your technology is, there's always going to be a little delay. So contrary to what actors like to do, which have a big dramatic pause, we'd have to direct them and you're going to be right on top of the next line, because what you think is a pause is actually going to be a long delay streaming wise, and it doesn't really read. And getting everybody to remember to turn on their cameras and turn off their cameras, and not take their cameras for a walk as they were wandering around and when they weren't talking, because people get dizzy. So these were all the little things that we kind of learned, and there's lessons learned from the drop-in Shakespeare that we were able to translate over to this format.
Exactly.
And Louise just posted in the chat, sort of, I think there was a story around how this all came about, which is great. So people can take a look and read that. Tina, we're getting a little short on, so is there anything?
I'm just going to scoot through real quickly here. So we had an intermission. So we gave the actors what they would normally have gotten. So they went off for 15 minutes. Chris, myself, and Emily, who is our playwright coordinator, came. We talked about, you know, the play itself and had a nice little dialogue about the theater during intermission. At the very end, we brought our actors back for the ovation so that the audience could do all their little emojis with their likes, their loves, all the little care emojis and all the other things that Facebook offers. So here are our actors all coming out to take the applause. And then we had a talk back at the end. So this is our Saturday night talk back. And Chris opened with asking each of the actors, how was that for you? How was the character? How was playing the character? How was it in this virtual format? And then my job was to check in with the audience. So I took the audience questions and filtered them to the cast. This was our Sunday talk back. You'll see the playwright actually did join us for both of these. And then I wanted to share this really quickly because we had so much wonderful response in the comments section. This gentleman, David R., wrote us a very nice response in the comments section. So I kind of grabbed it and screenshotted it because I think what he was so moved by was the fact that it was such a different experience for him. You know, if you're in the stage and you're watching the actor, you get your experience, but here you are looking at the actor on the screen, and he writes here in the second or third paragraph how he actually could see in the eyes of the actress portraying Martha. He watched the difficult, painful passage of her eyes. You know, they just revealed 1,000 heartbreaks. So he really was struck by that. So, and that was the goal. We wanted to bring as much emotion and character to our virtual stage like we would in our physical stage, and people were very, very moved by it. So that's what we did with Touched by War. We have intentions to bring a couple other plays in the fall and do them this way. So thank you for letting us share.
And that's incredible. And I think that, you know, this will be recorded and people will be able to use it, and it's wonderful if we can send people your way. If people are thinking, you know, that they want to do something like this, it is, you know, requires, it's a little bit more intensive than just sort of like doing a stage reading or something, but it's the one thing it shows is that it's completely doable. So, but one of the questions, and before we go to Joe really quickly, if you can answer, is how do you monetize this? I mean, are actors paid? I know the playwright was. This is one of the issues that I think people have, you know, a lot, is I'm going to go online, I'm going to do a film festival online, I'm going to do an art show online, I'm going to do all this stuff online, but then how are you, if you don't have funds, if you don't have foundation funds or something like that? Like, how are you actually making money, or is this really about goodwill and making sure that you're engaging your audience and keeping them invested in the work that you do once we get to the point, and we're going to talk to Joe about this, is about, being able to basically open your theater and have people come in.
Do you want me to answer that, or is that a question?
Yes, really, just really quickly, because Joe's doing it a different way, and so just
I'll
really
answer
quickly.
very quickly. Because this was a grant-funded production already,
Yeah, okay.
before we even moved it. So we always do believe in providing a stipend for our actors, and typically that would cover gas money and things like that for them to come to the stage. And we just wanted to keep, it was already in the budget, so we stuck with the stipends. So we are a community theater, so we're not a professional theater, but we still do give the stipends to help with various expenses. And so the foundation covered the cost.
Okay.
During the intermission, however, I will say this, we did use that opportunity, Chris, myself, and Emily, to talk about the theater, to talk about what was happening with us having to cancel our big spring production. And we did make a pitch for money. And we actually did get people clicking on the donate button. So we put the donate button in the comments section. We talked about it during intermission. We came back at the end and mentioned it. It was in the comments. And we actually did walk away with people making donations. So that actually worked in our favor. So yes, you can absolutely do that.
All right, excellent, that's great. So thank you so much for sharing that. I think it's incredibly helpful and a wonderful resource. So now we're going to move over to Barrington Stage and Joe Martin, who, like Eventide, is a theater company, but you all have chosen not to sort of go the virtual route. However, I watched some of the virtual stuff that you all did before opening for the season. It was very funny, actually. So if anyone gets a chance, go on Barrington Stage at Home's website and look at those videos. They're actually very funny. But you guys have decided to open for the summer season. You've actually decided to bring people into your theater to have people see a live show. So really curious about that. And if you can just sort of talk about that, talk about the social distance seating that you've put together, and what you're hoping to accomplish and what your expectations are as you open a summer season in a theater, and what that's going to look like. So if you want to share your screen, Joe, I don't know if you have slides you want to share your screen.
Yeah, unfortunately, right before we started, I lost my internet connection and I had to switch over to my phone. So this is my first time trying to use my phone to be in a Zoom call. So I don't know all the features.
The Berkshires.
Yeah. So we modified our summer season, and we postponed all of our original summer shows until next year. And then we wanted to do something for the summer, and we wanted to do something live. We didn't want to do something virtual because we felt we're a theater company, and
So just to let you know, Mina has your presentation, so she's sharing it now.
Oh, great, thank you. So what we're doing to make the theater accessible is one of the things we're doing is adding more entrances. We normally just have one main entrance, and we're adding a couple other entrances so that there's no crowding. We have a very small box office lobby, and we wanted to keep people separated and make sure that we could give them as much room as we could. So we've added additional entrances, and we've set up our will call box office outside. So we have a tent that we're putting up right next to the building. So people will be able to pick up their tickets if they have will call tickets there. And we're actually trying not to handle tickets at all. So we're encouraging people to print their tickets at home or use their phone so that we're not actually exchanging, handing off tickets to anybody. So we'll have a clipboard, and people will check off as you come in. So we'll have an accurate count of who was at the house. And that's important for being able to do contact tracing. So we're recording every person who comes in to see a performance, all the volunteer ushers, all of our staff. So in case there is any reason that we need to contact people, we'll have all that information available. Go to the slide showing the seating. No, it's not in the right order. You want to go to new seating chart, I believe is what it's called. Well, what we're doing is we're taking out every other row of seats in the orchestra level, and then we're not selling every other row in the mezzanine level. So I don't know if you're what I'm seeing there, but the idea is that we didn't want people to have to crawl over people to get into their row. So by removing every other row, we're getting about 6 feet in between rows. So it's easy to cross over in front of somebody to get to your seat if you need to do that. And then we're also leaving 2 seats empty between each one of the parties that arrive. So it's at not quite 6 feet between the person that you're sitting next to, but there are 2 empty seats there. So that's one of the reasons why we're requiring everybody to wear a mask also. So because we're not truly maintaining 6 feet, we are requiring everybody in the theater wear a mask. The other thing we're doing is we're screening people as they come in. We're taking everybody's temperature. And if you have a temperature 100.4 or above, you're not allowed to attend the performance.
100.4, oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, 100.4 or above is following the CDC guidelines for that. We're in the process right now of switching out all of our faucets and toilet flushes and paper towel dispensers, soap dispensers. They're all going to be touch-free. We've ordered all those. Most of them have arrived, and we started the installation for those. We're setting up hand sanitation stations throughout by each door. When you enter, there'll be a place where you can get hand sanitizer and clean your hands. So we're taking a lot of precautions. We've also worked with Train, it's our HVAC company, and we're switching out our filters. We've gone from MERV 8 filters to MERV 13, which is a better filter. It's not a true HEPA filter. Unfortunately, we're not able to do HEPA in our HVAC system because those filters are more dense, and there's static pressure that builds up behind those because the air can't flow through them as well. So we've increased to the MERV 13, which is also what's recommended for most commercial buildings, because most older air conditioning systems can't actually handle a HEPA filter, which has a rating of like MERV 15.
Yeah, Joe, I mean, this is one of the things that people are really talking about now is air quality in buildings. So that's interesting that this is a big part of it. And it would have to be you guys going back and saying that this is what we're going to do, is like taking into consideration like all of these things. It's not just the social distancing. And I've put up your website here so people can sort of get an idea of what that looks like, what the stage looks like. But to be thinking, you know, this is a lot of work to be doing this. And so for Barrington Stage, you all felt like this is the way you wanted to go instead of doing any kind of virtual programming.
Right. Julianne Boyd, our artistic director, really wanted to do live theater. We might think about streaming something, recording it and streaming it later, but that's not our primary focus. And it's not what we're not what we're trying to do. So
right.
We're taking all the precautions we can. Like I said, we postponed our original season till next year, and we have a different season. For the summer, we're doing Harry Clark, which is a one-man show. Essentially no scenery, 1 costume, 3 props, and lighting and sound. So we're not building any scenery. We're not bringing in a scene shop for that.
Right.
Bringing in the costume shop. There'll be 4 people running the show. There's a stage manager that'll be running the show from on deck, from off stage, right? And then our wardrobe person will set the costume in the dressing room before the actor arrives. And then when the actor is done at the end of the show, he'll drop his costume into a laundry basket. and then after he leaves, we'll pick up the laundry basket and do the laundry. So there won't be any contact between wardrobe and the actor. Mark H. Dold is actually playing that role for us.
So that's really interesting because, so I was originally thinking that it was your regular season, but so someone on the chat was asking about, you know, you're only going to be able to sell probably 30% of your house. And is that, you know, as far as money and as far as monetizing that? So that's a question that if you can answer quickly, that would be great. But the other one was, how did Pittsfield feel about this? So it's sort of like, you know, you Barrington Stage wants to open and do this, but what is the municipality, and how is that conversation with the municipality? And maybe this is a conversation for another time, but even just really quickly, how a municipality who may be practicing social distancing in a way is allowing, you know, not allowing, I mean, you can do this in stage 3,
Right.
but what was that reception, and do you have any tips on working with municipalities to be able to open a theater and open a place like this?
Yes, the city of Pittsfield has been very supportive and very excited that we're doing a summer season. We were actually encouraged by everybody to try and maintain some kind of season as opposed to just shutting everything down. You know, and the reality is, you know, we still don't know if we're going to be able to do this.
Right.
But we're going ahead, we're planning as if we are. So monetizing it, we've done everything we can to keep our expenses low. It's a one show, no scenery, one costume, very little crew. So we've cut all the expenses that we can possibly cut. We are doing, we reduced the size of the house from 520 down to 163. So we have a second stage, the St. Germain stage, where we do shows, and that house has 136 seats. So
right.
to running a theater with a smaller audience. So we kind of modeled this on stage 2. We can, you know, break even on stage 2 at 136 seats. So we can certainly break even on the main stage with 163 seats.
Okay. Excellent.
Yeah. It's not a long-term solution because we can't just do one person shows, but it is a solution to get us through this summer.
Yeah. All right. Thank you for sharing that. I'm sure there's going to be more questions. We want to make sure that we have an opportunity to talk to Matt, because, and the reason why we sort of wanted to put the program together like this is because you sort of have created this map and this sort of way that people can enjoy theater and go to the theater. And it's a really interesting way to innovate and be resilient during this time. And one of the things that we hear from our local community is our farmers markets. People are really thinking that farmers markets are really the way that people are going to be able to, you know, even enjoy arts and culture, food, be together in some sort of way. And, you know, there have been questions about how to do that with social distancing, and how, you know, how we can help people be safe. And so we wanted to bring Matt on board, you know, because Bow Market has created the Safe Supply Outdoor Grocery, the whole mapping about how to actually do a farmer's market the right way. And I think that we've shared that around to a lot of people. I've told people about that. And I just think that you, Matt, you guys were like the first on top of this way back in March, because you understood the importance of not only Bow Market, but just for farmers markets and people as a gathering place. So I'd love for you to talk about sort of like, you know, how that came about, the reservations, the map, I say the floor plan about how to navigate a farmer's market would be really great if you could touch on that.
Absolutely. And thanks for having me, and thanks for putting this together. It's been really cool to hear about all the awesome stuff folks are doing. It's awesome. So my name's Matt Boyce Watson. I am one of the owner-operators of Bow Market, which is 32 small independent food, art, and retail businesses around a public courtyard in Somerville's Union Square. I've also been mixed up in some municipal politics and public space prototyping, stuff like that. We opened Bow Market in May 2017, and lucky enough to be kind of welcoming about 25,000 guests a month into the space. And kind of when COVID started to present itself forcefully, we actually closed the market on March 16th before kind of the more formal closing at the state level, and then had Safe Supply up and running on March 21st. So it was kind of a quick turnaround, and what we were hoping to do with it, I'll share my screen here, was to create something that would help save our businesses. And when I say small, most of them are about the size of a single car garage bay. The building used to be a garage building. So what we wanted to do was create something that supported our community, that we could do safely, and that would keep our businesses in business. And then an outdoor grocery store was definitely the only thing we could come up with. But I think what, Lisa, you want us to hit here is this is a website we put up after we had launched Safe Supply and run it, and essentially using a lot of prototyping principles. So we kind of did exit interviews with every single person who came, understood what went well, what went better. We have a pre-check in the morning and then a little huddle at the end of every day, and really workshopped it every single Safe Supply 3 times a week, and put together this field guide, which was designed to help other people set up farmers markets as farmers markets got open. And it includes a lot of information, standard operating procedures for vendors, for guests. Similar to Joe, we were pretty aggressive with our safety guidelines. So the entire system actually works on a conveyor belt, or as our greeters like to say, it's like chutes and ladders or Candyland for grocery shopping. So you move from dot to dot, and you never even have the opportunity to get too close to someone. And it's all touchless. Everyone has to have masks and wash their hands as they enter. Can't bring their own bags, things like that. Stuff that the grocery stores started doing, 4 to 6 weeks after we had started running stuff like this. But I think the main points here are, let's see, we wanted to share back and help people set stuff like this up. We believe that moving everything you can outside is how we're going to weather this. I mean, Joe just laid out a super thoughtful way to keep operating inside. That's super cool. And I think we benefit from having this outdoor courtyard, and we found that guests felt very safe when they knew what to expect, and you prioritize their safety. They were willing to participate with what is a very strange experience. So we have 9 stations. Every station is modeled after, frozen dairy, dry goods, produce, meat. That in shock about 1,100 times, it feels like. But just, I think there's a lot of opportunity to prototype and do really cool, thoughtful things outdoors to make guests feel comfortable.
I mean, that's just incredible. I mean, just sort of I also think it benefits the vendors in the market, because people have to stop by each one as you're moving along, your way through the market. So have you thought about ways to also include music or include performance or anything? Is there any space in here for a farmer's market, in your farmer's market or other farmers markets, to add that component to it as as people are building it out?
Yeah, so we had live music a couple times. Some musicians volunteered we have a walkway, a 2nd floor walkway where all the shops are, so they could be up well out of the way and kind of playing music down into the courtyard. which was really amazing, and giving people a sense of, I think, the feedback we got is that going to grocery stores, you felt very threatened and unsafe, and other people were a source of anxiety, whereas here, where everything was laid out and very safe, very controlled, you started to enjoy your interactions with people because there was none of that underlying anxiety, and some of the music helped do that. So we're actually bringing that back this Saturday after a brief hiatus.
Excellent. And so you have the greeter, you have people, and you have found that people have warmed to it. People aren't like, oh, we need to, get in there quicker, or I need to, that people are now sort of understanding, like, this is the new normal, and this is how you're gonna, and this is the waiting line, I'm assuming right here, as people are waiting to go in.
Yeah, I think people really appreciate it, ultimately, and I think, we practice really exceptional hospitality all the time, and I think having a greeter who explains and makes everyone feel comfortable is absolutely key. Because if they understand the rules and why they're there, they're pretty willing to go along with it. So we have we're at this point, we're about 75% repeat customers, because everyone's required to pre-register for their shopping window. So they're 30-minute shopping blocks, 10 throughout the day, each one with about 30 shoppers in it.
And you're managing that through a website, Matt, that you have to go in and register for like, I want to shop at 2, so I show up, so everyone has their shopping hour.
Yeah, the whole thing's on Eventbrite. So you pre-register for a free 30-minute slot, and that's just a demand control. So you're pretty sure that you'll never come with it and find an enormous line, or that we'll have any unsafe condition with crowds. And that helps regulate demand, but also helps keep lines short and gives us information on disseminating safety stuff to guests.
Excellent. And then you share this with other farmers markets. So if someone wanted to reach out to you, if we send someone to you, if they wanted to do this is something that you would help support them in putting together.
Yeah, they can go to safesupplyfieldguide.org and kind of download everything and get a bunch of information. And then I think all of our contact information's in there if anybody wants to chat. And I will say that we're working on a bunch of other stuff that we are not quite allowed to do yet, but that includes how to do seating safely, and for the theater folks, we are working on a prototype for an amphitheater, a temporary prototype for an amphitheater you could erect using scaffolding and temporary materials, where you could do a performance for 140 guests outside.
Wow. That's awesome.
Stuff like that. So we'll share back if any of it seems like a good idea.
It all seems like a good idea. Whatever we can do, right, to keep people together, to support and engage community, to get arts and culture out there, so that, we all know how important arts and culture and community is, especially at a time like this. So we are close to the end of our hour. I don't know if let me just check the chat to see if there are any other questions. Nope, so I think that was it so far, but if we do get more questions, we'll reach out to you. I just want to thank all of you for your innovation, for your resilience, as we all move to sort of this, whatever recovery means. It's going to be different for all of us, but I think that the things that you've talked about, what you've offered, is really, really helpful for people. And so, we're going to continue to engage our communities. We're going to offer new ways to participate in arts and culture. And we just want to thank you so much for all the work, that you're doing and continue to do. And we are here. We're here to help you in any way that we can. So please know that we also are a resource, and we also have resources that we want to share with you before we go. These are just a few of the resources for Mass Cultural Council, and now we have in the chat all these other resources from these wonderful speakers. And you can always find information on our website, on MASSCreative's website, for ways that you can engage and do advocacy. So, I want to thank everyone for attending. Thank you all again, and hope that these stories that you've heard from people will help give you some ideas about how you can be thinking about engaging with your communities. And we look forward to seeing you next month for our next community check-in office hours, which is going to be on June 24th. So thank you again, and enjoy this incredible summer. I think that summer's finally here. Get outside, breathe in the fresh air, and be safe, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.